Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for Alpha 4 of Update 100 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, I've got another cool toy or two to distract you while I continue to trudge through the process that is building us a modern item spawner. So let's take a look at the cool toy first. This new one from Sergey, a personal favorite from all of the Tarkov that I have been playing. That's right, we have the PP-19 Vityaz. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I have no clue. If I am, I probably should have checked first. Just look at this sucker. Modern Russian 9mm submachine gun with just about as much cool furniture as you could trick it out with. Let's check this out off irons. Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. But, of course, we couldn't just have it in a stock configuration like that. We've got to trick this out. So we've got this sweet Mark II hex suppressor. Oh, yeah. That looks great. Oh, there we go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see. What else do we have? Got this Pursed 3 laser, which of course glitches on me as I attach it. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect for hip firing. Haha! Still technically hit enough of the target. Looking sweet. And we've got a PK-120. We're going to turn laser off there so we can see this easier. Oops, wasted around with that sweet looking reticle. Perfect. Just perfect. And I don't know about you, but I think we're running out of ammo too fast. So we can just put this 50-round drum. This isn't actually what I looked around online, and I couldn't tell if there was actually an official drum for this at all. There just seemed to be several different mentions of aftermarket ones with ambiguous information, so I just sort of kludged one together from the top of this mag and from an existing Russian drum in the game. Aha! Wonderful. Ooh, and I almost forgot. I think we've got, I believe this is the RKO foregrip. There we go. Now it's complete. Just look at how technical this is. Ah. Good stuff. Good stuff. And of course we can extend and contract the stock here if we want. Can fold that up if for whatever reason you wanted to just hit the ceiling a bunch, I guess. So there you have it, our new sweet, absolutely technical out PP-19. Absolutely love it. So beyond, there's our arm swinger jump. So beyond our new toy, what has Anton been up to? Well, let's head on over to our item spawner in progress. Ooh, I should have moved this up on the wall just a little bit. Anyway, so this is where we're at with this. I'll talk about this once I jump into VR, but I actually sort of started over with a bunch of the guts of how this works, and it is doing far more what I want. But I wanted to show a number of folks, when I had showed off initially the text list version of this middle panel, were like, that's cool that you can get more on screen, but I like navigating and picking things mainly via pictures and how they look. So you will now have this option at the top for whether you wish to show things as a list or show things as a grid. In addition to that, obviously, we've got our tag categories. This functionality is coming along, so we could totally say, go into subcategory and be like, I want automatic pistols. So we've got a 1 there that shows that we've selected that tag, and it's up there. And I want them from World War II. So there's our 7 pistols that fulfill both of those requirements. And then we can clear tags. I can also just go into set here and be like, just show me all the stuff that's a meme gun. And we'll pull those up. Let's see here, sci-fi, fictional, all the Meat Fortress stuff. And obviously this is just for the firearms page. The other pages aren't fully working yet. There's still a lot of metadata. I have to make some new pictures for things that don't have pictures. And there's a lot of back-end tags that I need to fix. In a big way, making this interface and letting me sort things this way I've already been finding all sorts of little metadata errors that have been in the game for the whole time. Like how a gun can have none as an action. So I'm like, whoops, need to fix that. But yeah, so we can see all the things in the game that have a pistol class round regardless of form factor. So it's this is already proving to be such a fun way to explore the game's collection. We can just check out every given gun made by different countries based upon how they are tagged. Let's see here, introduction year, which this is, of course, a pretty hilarious tag list to go through. Firing mode, so if I'm like, I just want to see all of the burst fire guns in the game, there they are. Wonderful. Feed option, that is still broken there. As I said, this is not ready for showtime. This was to get this sort of initial new version of this interface in, to have some of you folks check it out, tell me how it feels to select buttons. That should feel much better now with the filtering. You'd think this is a fairly small button to select, but it's actually fairly precise to do fast and nicely and such. And so yeah, just I would love you to play around with it. The details page doesn't come up yet. You can't actually select any of these guns. I am still working on that side of it. Just honestly getting really efficient tag sorting and culling working was most of the work thus far with this new set of things and getting the interface to auto-populate. But I will talk in a moment about why and about why I sort of started over with a bunch of this stuff. Actually, right now. Yo! So that's right, you heard me. I actually just straight up started over with a whole bunch of the work that I have been doing on the sort of back-end metadata and the way that I was approaching coding a bunch of the item spawner. Basically what was happening is I was running into a bit of a complexity brick wall with writing all of the UI code. And this has to do with the fact that even though you saw this sort of big list of tags down along the left, those are not one type of thing. H3 is basically this like half-decade long and tall pile of technical debt and past decisions, a lot of them suboptimal. And so there's like two different sets of categorization and subcategorization related to the item spawner. And then there's the FVR objects, which are like the individual object references in the background that have their own metadata. And they're not necessarily one-to-one because like the way that the game needs to think about what a gun and a mag and a cartridge, etc. are isn't necessarily the way you want an exposed interface that the player is using to pull things out to think about them. And then on top of that, I have to support several other sorts of tags in that, like, I want to make it possible for the user to favorite items into probably like 5 or 10 sort of groups. And then I also want to be able to personally tag items as new, but I don't want to have to actually like change the sort of background metadata on those objects when I turn them as new or not. Otherwise, the game will have to push that whole piece of information again. I'd like to just keep an external list. And then modders who might want to add all sorts of mod tags to sort of single out and group their own work need to be able to just add lists of strings into that. So basically, there's like 5 or 6 different types of things that I was having to like all represent and sort by in a unified way in the interface. And I was first trying to solve this problem in the interface code, which of course was just turning into these like nasty if-else blocks, and I was just like, this is never going to work. And then all of a sudden I realized even for tags, I had pagination I had to add, because like there's like 6 pages of year of introduction for guns, and I was feeling a little despondent, and did one of those things where you as a programmer, where you just go to bed helpless and hopeless, and then wake up the next morning and you're taking a shower and you're like, oh, I'm a dummy. There's a better way to do all of this. And so, yeah, so I basically did what I've only done now 3 total times in the history of H3, which is to straight up go into one of my backups of the project and grab a chunk of it and revert it wholesale back. I did it once before when I messed up my locomotion code, and then I did it, there was another time that I did it, and there was another time I accidentally like edited something out and saved and nuked a bunch of like serialized data, and I had to rescue myself with it. So this is only time number 3 that I've had to do this, so it's always a big deal for me. But in this case, it made sense. And what I've essentially done is to both make this robust, especially after seeing a whole bunch of the issues that can arise with mod content, and specifically with people inserting mod content, doing things, saving things, and then pulling that out, or having to update a user mod many times. I realized that the most robust thing to do was to essentially create a abstraction layer of tag data on top of everything that is generated entirely at runtime based upon the current detected assets, wherever those come from, whether they're stuff that came with the game or stuff that's been user loaded. It essentially will force all content through a new funnel, and then essentially construct these sets of sort of dictionaries of it's like a dictionary of strings, of dictionaries, of tag types, of lists of strings, and then an inverted form of that, and a couple other different types of data collections, basically so that I can sort all of this information and sort it based on like, here's a list of all the items in the game, and then what tag types they have, and then what tags they have, but then also have that information sorted into like, give me every item that has this tag of this type, and things like that. And what that allows me to do by having this abstraction, and having tag type serve as like, this is a favorite, it's new, this is something modders added, these are the item spawners metadata, these are FVR objects metadata, etc., is that in that little loading routine, I can insert lots of different ways to add that information. And I can even, during runtime, also conditionally add tags, like you favoriting things, or who knows, maybe there's some other exotic usage of it. And it should all remain robust, and the item spawner should be able to handle those very large variances in terms of what the data set that it's operating on. And in the process, and this was the most important thing, it made writing the UI code only kind of nightmarish, instead of a brick wall that I was never going to like beat my head through. So, yay! The interface is now actually functional. It is actually pulling in all of the stuff that is currently registered as item spawner IDs. There's a bunch of stuff that I still need to actually add that hasn't been in the item spawner in the past, that I'm just going to put in at this point. Sort of thing. The unlockables will remain unlockable, but the other stuff will end up, the stuff that just hasn't had an item spawner ID at all will get added in some form. So yeah, so that's the big thing, that is now actually like working. And then on top of that, the other stuff that's sort of in this build is I still, as I mentioned, I'm cleaning up a bunch of internal metadata. That's going to continue to be an ongoing thing. Just a warning to those of you with metered internet, especially, who have to watch your download sizes. You might not want to be on the alpha branch while I'm finishing up update 100, because I have to change that metadata. A lot of these alpha builds, especially if I'm doing patches at the end, I will have to reserve through the Steam like Delta Inc. download system a good chunk of the asset bundles, so they could end up being very large builds with very small changes. So if you don't want your life, you're on limited internet and don't want to get that chewed up, definitely stay off the alpha build until update 100 goes out in full. because I'm just going to have to keep doing little fixes and tweaks, and I sure am, as I'm through this process, especially once I give folks the new item spawner to play with in some form, I'm just going to get this laundry list of like, this object shows up here, it should be here, why is this here, why is this one, this is missing, these are all wrong, etc. It's going to be like 100 or 1,000 little changes, so just to be aware of. In terms of little stuff, I fixed the Proving Ground respawn point, which was just making people fall through the floor. I don't even know what happened there. I must have misdragged something. Removed some performance expensive debug logs that I accidentally left in. Sorry about that. What is it? Oh, and importantly, I have not yet changed. I'm aware of the bug where when you go to like AK rip tear another mag out with a mag that it magnets to your hand. I haven't fixed that yet. I know how I'm going to, but I didn't have the time to tear that apart and put that back together again because I need to like actually re-architect a bunch of the mag palming system to make that to have that conditional behavior. And I want to do that very carefully to not introduce bugs. So, and then lastly, in terms of API changes, this is for all the you modder folk out there. The FVR object type that is used for all sorts of objects now has two new fields called round type, which is the cartridge type, and has a bool there called uses round type flag that you have to turn on. Once you download this alpha, start migrating your content over to have those two fields, because if you don't fill those out, then folks will not be able to search for items with that field using the item spawner. The same thing is true of the magazine type field. Make sure that is filled out both for the magazine and for the weapon so that the item spawner knows how to connect them. I can't just, with the item spawner, look at the actual object to see that value, because then I'd have to fully load it into memory, which would inflate a nightmarish memory bubble, just loading all the assets in the game. So the metadata has to be filled out correctly for that. It's not going to like error out if it's missing, but it's just folks searching by caliber or magazine type won't see your assets unless you update that type when they're searching using that field. So yeah. I think that's just about it for this week. I know this has been a long alpha cycle, and truth be told, I've been pretty unfocused and under the weather, and honestly just kind of demoralized a lot this past month as I've been like beating my head against this new item spawner and having all sorts of structural problems with it and avoiding it. And now that I've broken through that, and like there's still a lot of work to do on this item spawner, for sure. The hardest part is now actually done. It's actually just a lot of very serial, careful design work, testing, fixing things, fixing tons of metadata, getting other content I want into it. But the hardest part, which was building the unified, very performance efficient tag culling system, is now in, and it works. And so I cannot tell you how happy I am. So that is all in, and yeah, so I hope you have fun playing around with this. I'd love to hear your feedback back on how the new item spawner interface is coming along. There's still some things that I'm definitely tweaking about it, and then I'm open to feedback about. But the 3-panel approach, I'm liking it, and I hope that option, I'm going to have it actually in picture mode by default instead of list mode, just because it's more all languages friendly for that, and you can just tick through it the whole way like that. And yeah, so anywho, I hope you all have a pleasant weekend playing around with this, and I'll see you soon. Peace.